Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we are exploring something absolutely mind-bending. We're going to take the weird, completely counterintuitive rules of quantum mechanics and use them to build an actual scientific framework for self-forgiveness. We are going to see how the very structure of reality changes how we process our own past. So, I want to kick things off with a pretty wild question. Can a choice you make today actually change what happened yesterday? I mean, normally we believe in this super strict arrow of time, right? Yesterday causes today, and today causes tomorrow. You drop a glass, it shatters, you clean it up. Simple, the whole shebang. But what if I told you that down at the quantum level, this strict arrow of time is completely broken?
Okay, let's dive into this. For centuries, our whole worldview was basically dominated by classical physics. Think Newton's apple. In that old model, reality is just a giant machine made of solid, predictable, entirely separate parts. If you knew where a part was, you could predict exactly what it was going to do. But then scientists started looking a bit closer at atoms, and well, the machine broke. Enter the new integrated worldview championed by physicists like Albert Einstein and David Bohm. They realize reality isn't some static machine. It's a flowing, highly connected, probabilistic river. Nothing is fixed. Everything is just constantly becoming.
To make sense of this bizarre microscopic world, scientists in the 1920s basically had to invent a brand new rule book known as the Copenhagen interpretation. Now, here's the layman's version of it. A particle isn't just a tiny billiard ball. Nope. It's actually a fuzzy cloud of possibilities, a superposition of everywhere it could potentially be at once. And it stays as this fuzzy, undecided cloud until the absolute final step, the exact instant you measure it. That's when the cloud collapses into one definite, solid reality. The implication of that final rule is literally staggering. As the legendary physicist Niels Bohr famously put it, no phenomenon is a phenomenon until it is an observed phenomenon. Now, this was incredibly controversial. I mean, it actually infuriated Einstein because it implies that observation isn't just some passive act of watching a pre-existing reality. Not at all. Observation is a creative act. It's what turns the world of maybe into the world of is. And this brilliantly illustrates a concept developed by physicist John Archibald Wheeler back in 1978. He called it the Great Smoky Dragon. It's like a giant puzzle. Imagine a particle's journey. Step 1 is the tail. That's the clear, obvious point where a particle is born or emitted. Step 3 is the head, the clear point where the particle is finally detected by a sensor. But step 2, the body, the entire journey in between is completely hidden in this smoky, foggy cloud of uncertainty. You literally have no idea what path it took until you decide how to look at it. To test this, Wheeler proposed a wild thought experiment that was actually later proven entirely true in real-world labs using interferometers. Imagine waiting until a photon of light is already halfway through its journey, and then, at the last possible millisecond, deciding how you're going to measure it. The shocking result? Your choice in the present actually retroactively determines the particle's past. By choosing to measure it a certain way right now, the photon essentially goes back in time to pick the correct history, acting either like a wave taking multiple paths or a particle taking just one. Mind-blowing, right? So, what does this all mean? How do physicists actually explain this incredible time trick? Well, there are two main camps. Camp A relies on that Copenhagen view. Basically, the past was simply never fixed to begin with. Until it was measured, the photon literally had no history. So measuring it in the present creates the past for the very first time. Then there's Camp B, which takes a much more radical approach called retrocausality. This theory suggests there's a sort of handshake across time. The present actually sends a confirmation wave backward in time to influence the past. But in both of these views, the core takeaway is the same. The past is just an unfinished draft until it's observed. Okay, so how does this apply to us? Well, this brings us to neuroscience and something called quantum-like modeling, or QLM. Now, let's be clear, your brain is not a literal, magical quantum computer. The physical hardware, your cells, your neurons, that's all just normal biology. But what QLM shows us is that the software of your brain, how you actually think, process information, and organize your memories, perfectly follows the mathematical logic and rules of quantum mechanics. Just like that particle, a thought or a memory can exist in a superposition, a mixture of possibilities, until you actively decide on it.
A perfect example of this quantum-like behavior is wireless brain syncing. Now, in traditional neuroscience, we thought brain regions had to be physically wired together by neurons to communicate. But we now know that brain cells can actually sync up wirelessly using local electric fields. It's kind of like pendulums on a wall that just naturally sync to the exact same rhythm. This creates a state of mental entanglement, where distant regions of your brain coordinate instantly without any physical wires. It proves that our internal mental state is a highly unified, deeply interconnected system. And we actually see this play out when humans interact with each other. When two people truly collaborate, they enter this aligned state of real empathy. And the absolutely fascinating part, this aligned state literally changes how we remember things. When you're in a true empathetic flow, your brain prioritizes that social connection and just drops the rigid, specific details. Memory isn't some perfect video recording stored on a hard drive. It's a fluid, living process shaped by connection, which completely changes how we should process our own history. The old classical view tells us that a past mistake is a fixed, permanent failure. It's locked in. But looking through this quantum lens, we now know that a quantum memory is entirely different. A past event is actually a fuzzy cloud of possibilities. It exists in a superposition of meanings, just sitting there, waiting for you to perform a measurement on it today. This is exactly where Wheeler's Smoky Dragon maps directly onto your own life. Step 1 is the tail, the factual event. You failed a test, you hurt a friend, whatever it was. Step 3 is the head, the result you live with today. Maybe that's peace, or maybe it's lingering guilt. But step 2, the body, that is the meaning of the event. And just like our quantum particle, that meaning is a smoky cloud of uncertainty. It remains completely undecided until you, right now, choose how to look at it. And here is the real game changer. The act of measurement is forgiveness. You see, when you hold on to a bitter grudge against your past self, you're measuring that past event through a really harsh lens. You are forcing it to collapse into a solid particle of shame. But forgiveness acts as a totally new, compassionate lens. By forgiving yourself, you collapse the wave function of that memory into something entirely different. You collapse it into a wave of learning and grace.
So the absolutely crucial point here comes down to this simple but profound phrase. You did the best you could with what you had at the time. When you repeat this present-day mantra of compassion, you are essentially running a delayed choice experiment on your own timeline. You're sending a retrocausal handshake back across time. You are waiting until right now to decide the meaning of then, completing the transaction and soothing the memory of your past self.
Now, we do have to ground this in reality for sure. Forgiveness doesn't magically change the physical historical event. You still dropped the glass. But it absolutely does collapse the emotional resonance of that event. Because your brain processes information in this quantum-like way, forgiveness physically rewrites your neural pathways today. It transforms a literal life sentence of shame into a vital lesson. You aren't changing physical history, no, but you are changing the quantum state of the memory's meaning. And you know what's beautiful? This inner healing directly mirrors our relationship with the outer world. If we look at ancient Buddhist philosophy right alongside modern quantum physics, we see perfect alignment around this concept of connection. Whether it's the ancient idea of a shared essence, or Einstein's proof that electrons entangle across the entire universe, the ultimate takeaway is the exact same. We are not separate from nature, and we are certainly not separate from our past. Which brings us to the number 1. This represents the ultimate truth of this entire framework. You, your past self, the people around you, and the environment. You are all just one fully entangled system. There is no isolated you making mistakes in a vacuum. Therefore, having compassion for your past self isn't just some neat psychological trick. Forgiving yourself is literally forgiving the universe. It's an expansive act of healing the entire interconnected system from the inside out. We've seen how the Smoky Dragon of quantum mechanics proves that the present moment has the radical power to redefine history. The objective past just does not have a fixed emotional meaning until you observe it right now. So I'll leave you with this. If your observation today literally creates your past, what reality will you choose to measure right now? Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey through the quantum mind. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.